The next thing that we're going to create are what are known as the building canopy control points. So there may be control points in your project that you have to set, for the building or the structure. Maybe these are just, kind of footing locations where they can initially dig the footing, and then, you come back and maybe pin the footing or pin the pier, whatever it is that you're eventually going to create. In this particular drawing, if we look at the plan set, we go into the PDF file. So I'm going back to my Connect project, and I've got a folder for PDF files. And if I look at the site plan, it's going to open it up in a viewer. And I know if I zoom in on the corners, there's this symbol here. And if we look at that symbol and you go over to the legend, on the legend, you'll see that it's building canopy control point. So we want to stake those out so that the contractors who is responsible for laying out the building canopy can use those points for laying out that canopy, right? So these are their control points. And you can see they do have dimensions of, where they're located off of the actual property line. So we have a dimension off their property line here and here. So that's something that we would use to verify, measure these distances to verify where that location is. But we're going to create a point object at these locations to, again, send out to our controller for stakeout. Now, so that we know exactly where they are, we're going to use the CAD data. So we're going to go over and unisolate all the layers. And when we zoom in on the corner, we can see what that object is. So there's an object here with a circle. If we look at the properties of it, it's on this C site note. All right. So what we can do here is let's go ahead and isolate that layer, which was the one we had. You can see there are all these site notes. Okay. Kind of helps clean it up a little bit. We really didn't have to do that, but sometimes it's easier to see. But we'll leave everything on. So I just unisolated that layer. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to our menu under Draw, and we're going to select um, Point. And we're just going to do a single point. Before we do that, we want to set a layer, right? We need to set our layer active. So let's go to our layer manager. And actually, without going to the layer manager, let's see if we type in layer on the command line, it opens up the layer manager. So sometimes you can, if you do like a dash or underscore layer, it'll kind of step you through the commands on the command line, but the layer manager is just as easy to use. So we'll go in and we're going to call this STK dash, we'll call it, we don't want to, we want to have a control point. We want to have building control point. Our control point for our site control may be a different layer. So let's do BLDG dash CNTRL for building control, and we can set that. Let's use magenta because that's the color that they have for their symbol, and we'll click the checkbox to set. Oh, we want to set that layer current. So let's go back and do the SDK here to filter our layers, and then we want to make sure that the building control, which is right here, we want to make sure that's current. So now when we go over to our draw and we create point, single point, it's going to ask us for a position. Now what we want to do is we want to hold the shift key down and right click, and we want to pick center. And we want to hover over the corner of this circle because that's the center point that we want to create that point to. Now there is one other thing we want to do. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to Control Z, and we're going to do that point again. So there's one step I forgot to mention. So we're going to do the draw point, single point. We're going to go to settings first. Okay. And we want to change the type. So we didn't see anything because it was tiny. We want to change that type. Let's change it to this and then make it 5 relative to display. Right. And we'll click the checkbox. Now when we create the point, we'll do that one more time. Draw point, single point. We can come in here and we can shift right click, pick center, pick that point. Okay, and now you can see that it's created that point there. And as we zoom out, and we'll do a rebuild here in a second, it'll come in. Now we're gonna press enter, and it should have held our settings. If we go to settings, you can see those are there, so we don't have to go back to settings. It's always good to check. Right click, pick center, and we'll pick that one. Now we probably could have picked multiple, and that would let us pick multiple points, but we'll go ahead and do this last one that's up in this corner over here. So I'm just going to right click, repeat point, shift right click, center, and we'll grab that point right there. And now when we zoom out, and we will go and turn off all these other layers here. So let's go up to this, and we'll isolate layer, and let's just pick one layer here, which would be our property line. And then what we can do is just come back and turn these on. So we're going to turn on all the STK because we filtered the STK out for us, right? So the points are there, right? And they're small. But if we zoom out and use the rebuild, you'll see now there's those control points. So that's the building canopy control points that we have. We have our line work. We're kind of adding more and more data that we're preparing to send out to the field.